What's going on, everybody? The Original Mako back with some more Nobody Saves the World content. Today we just have our full review. Should be pretty short. I'm just going to talk about the things I like about this game, what I don't like about this game. Just rate it out of 10 and give you my 25-hour review. We've played over 25 hours of this game, and that means it's time to review it. So, yeah, I'm going to give you my review, but before we get into that, be sure to check the links down below as always. Please consider becoming a member today. It helps out a lot. You get some exclusive content out of it, and it helps me out a ton, and I would really appreciate it. And also check the Twitch link. I might be streaming right as you're watching this, so pop on over, drop a follow, interact, don't interact, lurk, don't, whatever. I would just really appreciate it because we're trying to get partnered on Twitch, and I need your guys' help to do it. So, that being said, let's hop into the review of Nobody Saves the World, which we are currently in the menu of as we speak. So I guess the first thing to start with is, while we were in the options so I could mess around with the music, is just the soundtrack. The audio in-game, the background music, the sound abilities make, all of the different sound in the game, I think they did a fantastic job with. Everything, all the abilities have their own unique, everything's got its own sound, and I know I can just tell the effort that was put into the sounds. Everything was very carefully crafted. Enemies taking damage, all of that type of stuff. Audio wise, even if let's just pop into a dungeon real quick. Dungeon soundtrack bangs, the breaking of objects, the dropping of money, all the different enemies when they take damage and whatnot. It's great. I love the soundtrack. I love the sound in this game. Every single time I've streamed it, I've never thought, wow, I need to just turn on some music. It's just been very casual and just very easy to get into. And yeah, it feels really nice. The soundtrack feels really nice, and I know they spent a lot of time on that. So credit to the developers for the soundtrack because it is great. Now, let's talk about what it is. Chat and me have both said it's probably closest related to Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or I guess just Zelda in general. It's questing. It's a lot of questing, some dungeon crawling, and the whole goal of the game is to complete these quests so you can unlock these little wand star thingies that you can see next to the little ghost icon here, and unlock legendary dungeons which you can complete to advance the main story. The main story, I think, is really good. It's pretty interesting. There are a couple of twists and turns, and it concludes in a very, a satisfying and fantastic way. I'd say, assuming you're not 100%ing everything, and you're just going to go through the main story at a reasonable pace, you're not speedrunning, but you're also not 100%ing. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'd say probably about 15 hours of gameplay, which is pretty good. 15 hours or so. But I think this game is going to shine the best with people like me who really enjoy, just dungeon crawling in general, but like theory crafting, builds, and whatnot. So as you can see, every single form, the entire game is based on forms here, which I almost have all of them at S tier. You have to unlock those throughout the game, but every single form has a signature ability that you cannot swap out and a signature passive that you cannot swap out. Everything else is customizable. As soon as you unlock all of the different abilities from all the characters, as soon as you unlock all of the passives from all the characters, you can mix and match any 3 abilities and any 3 other passives that you want into your build to make all sorts of different things happen. There are so many different combinations that you could do, so many different fun things that you can try out, and that's when I think a game like this becomes extremely fun, is being able to just go back into dungeons over and over and keep trying different builds just to see what's super fun, what's not, what's broken, what's not, all that type of stuff. And I think they do a really good job with that and having just a ton of customizability within the game. All of the different forms I think are great. I think they all come with their own unique, gimmicks that they have. Every single form has something that's relatively useful. I'm trying to think if there's any that, everything has something relatively useful. So I think they did a great job with balancing all the different characters. Obviously, some have better abilities or a better signature or a better passive, but they all can bring something to your build and all can be useful at one point or another throughout the story. Another thing that I think this game has done extremely well is they have, oops, I kind of meant to leave. They have New Game Plus. So once you complete the story, you can, in a new save file, start New Game Plus where you completely start over again, except the difference this time is that you have to start from scratch, and all the enemies will always scale to your level. The dungeons have a bunch of different modifiers, and it's just a harder version of the base game. So as you can see, I've beaten the normal game, but we still have, the entire map to unlock pretty much, because we're playing on the New Game Plus. The enemies are the same exact level as me. All of the dungeons will say level 64. They all have their own modifiers, and it's just a fun way to re-experience the game with a little bit more challenge, if you can say that. This is where I get to my little bit of complaining that I have with this game, because I think this overall is a wonderful game. I've loved all the time I've spent in it, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for the future, because I know they have some plans for the future of this game. At least they said they did when they released it, so I'm excited for that. But here's my complaint that I have so far. New Game Plus, even with the modifiers and the enemy level scaling, it doesn't really seem much harder, if harder at all, than the original playthrough. Now that I have an entire playthrough of the game and a whole understanding of all the characters, I have all of their abilities unlocked. I have them all almost maxed statted by having them fully leveled. I have, all the different passives. I have bought all the passives from the store. I have every single thing at my disposal. And it kind of makes dungeons and whatnot relatively easy. Obviously trying out different builds and stuff. There are some builds that I try out and I end up dying and it's like, okay, this build does not work. But if I have any sort of decent, semi-decent build going at all, it kind of just, it's kind of just skating on through. Like there's no real challenge, and I haven't gotten to like the very last dungeon or some of the other legendary dungeons yet. So maybe once we get to some of those, it'll be a little bit different. But for right now, I just wish there was something a little bit more challenging or difficult in the game, because it really doesn't seem that difficult. The hardest part of this game is, grinding all the characters to S tier, and even more so, max leveling every ability in the game, because that is a grind. That is a grind. And that brings me to something else that I enjoy about this game, which is, I think it is, for me, everybody has their own personal taste, but for me personally, it was the perfect amount of grinding for the normal playthrough. Obviously, post-game, when I'm in New Game Plus, I'm going to do a lot more grinding, which is just something I've chosen to do because I enjoy the game. But during the game, I was like, wow, this is the perfect amount of, like, you can't just spam through the story because you have to get these little stars to unlock the different legendary dungeons. But you're also not spending, like, hours and hours just farming the same dungeons over and over again to get these stars. There's a lot of mini dungeons that you can do, so a lot of variability. There's a lot of different quests that aren't dungeon related that you can do. There's a lot of options that the game gives you to make it not as grindy, but you still do have to grind, and you can't just fully spam through the story. You get to experience a bit more of the game, which I really enjoyed, having that, all these different options, and almost feeling just overwhelmed with the amount of different options because it was so good. And then we'll go to the last thing that I want to mention about this game. So this game has a couple, I'm not going to be able to show any examples here, but this game has a couple of, like, I don't know if I want to say like secrets, but almost puzzles that you have to figure out, which is super cool. There's a couple of quests, like one of the quests in the Knights Guild is you have to survive a punch from this guy who can literally one-shot everything. And you can keep trying as many times as you want. You can max level the rat, but every time you go in there, he will kill you. And you have to kind of figure out, exactly how you get around that. I'm not going to spoil it in case any of you want to actually do it or figure it out yourselves. But, you have to think, and you have to think, well, what's in this game that I can, what can I do to get around this? Oh, that's right. And then you do it. And then you're like, oh, that was pretty cool. There's little puzzles or secrets, kind of stuff like that, which make the game even more interesting as you're playing and feel a lot less grindy. The characters, there's no voice acting, but the character dialogue is pretty good. There's some witty stuff in there. And overall, if I was rating this game out of 10, I'd probably give it an 8.5 to a 9, somewhere in that range out of 10. I've enjoyed every second I've played, and for the price, I think you get your money's worth and more in just the normal playthrough, let alone, if you want to go into New Game Plus afterwards, the amount of builds, the different play styles that'll complement every single person, the strategy that's involved, some of the, I wish it was a little bit more challenging. That's why I'm not going to give it a full, just this is the best game ever type of thing. But soundtrack, characters, all that different type of stuff is just fantastic. The tree is very well designed, and unlocks it feels like you're increasing in power for the most part as you go up. There's a few scenarios where I don't think that's quite true, but overall I think it's a great game, a fantastic game that if you're on the fence about buying and this is your type of genre, I would highly recommend it. Very colorful, very pretty, and I've enjoyed all of my time playing this game, and hopefully you guys are enjoying the content, because I'm sure I'm going to have some more builds coming to you guys soon, so be sure to hit the subscribe button. Plenty of Nobody Saves the World content and some other games coming out that are going to be going right to your faces very soon. So thank you guys. I very much appreciate all the support as always. Like I said, check those links down below. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. Thank you very much. I love each and every one of your faces, and I will catch you all in the next video.